Okay, in this video I review how to factor by grouping, okay? So I say how many answers, and there would be 2 on this one. Or 3, there's 3 because you have x to the third power. Now what method? It's either x squared equals x equals or set boxes, okay? I also have these other x's that are not to the third power, so it's got to be set boxes because the x's aren't all to the same power. So you're set, that's not a problem. I put a 1 and then I count the terms I have to know which boxes I use, and there's 4, so it's grouping and dops. Okay, so I make the big grouping box. So I go parentheses plus parentheses, and the same thing with lines outside those parentheses. And then a big line and a parentheses, and then on this line I put a little smaller parentheses, and that's actually my F1. Now the dops box, I'm going to put that on the bottom right, because when I look for the dops, and it'll be there, I look in this parentheses here, not the first one. I put an F there, it's done. Now I put 1x to the third minus 6x to the second, and then negative 9x plus 54. And then I look at the GCF, but I look at only 2 of them at a time. So I check for the negative, the x, and then the GCF. So the negative, this first term, the 1 is not negative, so I don't put negative under the lines here, but I will put it here because we do have a negative in front here. Now as far as x goes, we have x on both these, so x second, I take the smaller one. But I don't put x down under here because 54 doesn't have an x. Okay. Now I GCF 1 and 6, and that's sit 1. Okay, so the GCF there is 1, and then 9 and 54. And the GCF there's 9, so I put a 9 with that negative. Now whatever I'm dividing by under these lines goes out into the line, so 1x to the second and negative 9. And then I do my divide. 1 divided by 1 is 1, and then on x I take 3 minus 2, and that's to the first. And then I take negative 6 divided by 1, which is negative 6, so I put minus 6, and then these x's here are to the same power, so we delete those. Okay, and then in the other one I take negative 9 divided by negative 9, that's 1, but the x will be on the 1. And then positive 54 by negative 9 is negative 6, so I put minus 6. Okay, now I delete that first power, and I look inside the 2 parentheses, and I see the exact same expression. So that comes out here, and that's your F1. And then I have 1x to the second minus 9. Okay, now the dops again comes from that other parentheses. So is x to the second there? Yes, it is. So I go x, x. Okay, is the second number negative? Yes, it is. And then I see if the numbers are perfect squares. So I look at my multiplication chart down this, whoops, sorry, I forgot to circle that. Okay, it's down the diagonal list, straight diagonal. Okay. So 1's there because that's 1 times 1. And 9's here. That's rewritten as 3 times 3. Okay. And that's F2 and that's F3. Take your F1 parentheses and put it down here. And then equals 0. Okay, so 1x minus 6 could equal 0. 1x plus 3 could equal 0. 1x minus 3 could equal 0. So I dot my x's, all 3 of them. But for all, I have to add and subtract. So 0 plus 6 is 6. And then we're not going to divide if there's a 1 there, because it'll be the same thing. Then I minus 3, that's negative 3. And we're not going to divide if that's a 1. And then we plus 3. Again, that's a 1, so it's 3. Okay, those 3 things. Okay, next problem. The equation's got 3 answers. There are x's in that equation that are not to the third power, so we do the set boxes because I have to factor the expression once it's set. So we're set. Now how many terms are in the expression that we have to factor? There are 4 again, so it's the same thing essentially, okay? Grouping DOPS. So grouping, parentheses plus parentheses, and lines outside your parentheses. And then a big line and 1 parentheses, and I just put a little parentheses right there because that's where F1 goes. Now again, your DOPS, put it to the bottom right so you know exactly where to look for it. And that's from this, okay? Those are just like arrows. So I have 1x to the power of 3 plus 5x to the power of 2, and then negative 16x minus 80. So again, negative x in GCF. Negative, I do not need a negative in the first one, but in the second one I do. X, again, we need it in the first to the second. Not just x, it's got to be the second, but I don't need it here. Okay, then GCF, calculate 1 and 5. It's going to be 1. And then 16 and 80. And the greatest amount, you can divide those by 16. Okay, so again, I have 1x to the second, and I have negative 16. Okay, 1 divided by 1 is 1. 3 minus 2 is to the first. Positive 5 divided by 1 is positive 5. And then delete those. Negative divided by negative is positive 1x. And then I take negative 80 divided by negative 16, and that's positive 5, so it's plus 5. Again, delete the 1. So inside your parentheses, you have the exact same expression, and that is your F1. Then I take 1x to the second minus 16. If it's negative, you need to write a subtraction. Okay, DOPS is x second there, yup. XX. Is the second number negative? Yup. And then 1 and 16. Well, 1's here, that's 1 by 1. And then 16's here, that's 4 times 4. And I now have my F2 and my F3. And again, take your F1 and just drop it down, the 1x plus 5. You're just dropping that. Put it just in front. And I have factored the expression. Now I solve. 1x plus 5 equals 0. 1x plus 4 equals 0. 1x minus 4 equals 0. So I minus 5, and that's negative 5. You don't need to divide if it's a 1. That's your answer. Minus 4, and then you're at negative 4. When you subtract from 0, it goes into a negative every time. And then plus 4, that takes me to 4. Don't need that. So those are the 3 answers. Okay, 2 on the back side. X to the third plus x second minus 16x minus 16 equals 0. So there are 2 answers. Okay, 3 answers. Why do I keep saying that? And it's a set boxes because you have all these x's that are not to the same power. Okay, so we're set. And we have 4 terms. Okay, so grouping DOPS again. So parentheses plus parentheses, and the same thing with lines outside. And then a big line and a parentheses. I put a little small parentheses there because that's my F1. And then DOPS down here. Remember, you're always looking here for the DOPS. Plus minus. Okay. So you got 1x to the power of 3 plus 1x to the power of 2, and then negative 16x minus 16, and then negative x in GCF. Okay, the negative is not needed here, but it is needed here. X is needed here. It's to the second, but not here. Okay, 1 and 1, it's just 1. And then I'll go 16 and 16. When it's the same number, it's actually going to be that very number. So 16. Okay, so I got 1x second here, negative 16 here. So 1x seconds out, negative 16's out. So 1 divided by 1 is 1. 3 minus 2 is to the first. 1 divided by 1 is 1. And then those can go bye-bye. And that's going to be the same. And negative 16 divided by negative 16 is 1 with x. Then negative 16 divided by negative 16 is 1 again. So they're both the same again. Okay, so in each parentheses, I got 1x plus 1, and that's your F1. Okay. Then you cross those out, and then you have 1x to the second minus 16. Okay, DOPS is your x to the second there. Yep, so x is the second number negative. Yep, 16 is. So 1 and 16. So 1 is 1 times 1. And here's 16. That's 4 times 4. And I got F2 and F3. So I drop that down. 1x plus 1. And that all equals 0. It's just taking this and rewriting it in a different formation where I could actually solve it. 1x plus 1 equals 0. 1x plus 4 is 0, excuse me. 1x minus 4 equals 0. So I dot all three of the x's, and then I minus 1. So that's negative 1, and then we can delete the 1 times. Any other number you can't, but that one you can. Minus 4, that's negative 4. Again, having a 1 times x is x. Okay, and then plus 4, that's 4. And that's the 3 answers. Okay, last one, 2x to the third minus 3x to the second minus 18x plus 27 is 0. There's 3 terms here. And again, you got to use set boxes because in that equation there are other x's that are not to the third power. So you're set with 4 terms to factor. So grouping, parentheses plus parentheses, then the lines in front, then 1 parentheses with a big line, but just a little parentheses, and that's F1. Now the DOPS is from here. So you got 2x to the power of 3 minus 3x to the power of 2, negative 18x plus 27. Okay, negative x GCF. Okay, now I don't have the negative here, but I'm going to have it here. X, again, you'll need x to the second here, but you don't need x here because 27 doesn't have x. So 2, 3, that's 1. Then 1827 is 9, so I put a 9 with the negative. Okay, so factor those out. So you put 1x to the second and negative 9. So 2 divided by 1 is 2, and then x to the power of 1. Negative 3 divided by 1 is negative 3. You can delete that then. Negative 18 divided by negative 9, I would hope that that's 2 positive, and it is. Negative divided by negative is a positive with x still. And then positive 27 divided by negative 9 is negative 3, so I put minus 3. So inside each parentheses is the same expression, 2x minus 3. Okay, then I've got 1x to the power of 2 minus 9. And the x to the second's there. The second number is negative, And 1's a perfect square because that's 1 times 1. And 9's a perfect square because that's 3 times 3. And you got your F2 and F3. And remember, F1 is the 2x minus 3. And that's your factoring. Now you just set each one equal to 0 and find the solutions to the equation. You're going to get a decimal here. You'll see why. So dot circle, dot circle, dot circle. Now we add 3, but I have a 2 as my dotted number, so I need to divide by 2. I can't just delete a 2. 3 divided by 2 is 1.5. Then minus 3, that's negative 3. You have a 1, delete it. And then add 3, which is 3, and a 1 gets deleted.